to the Pulse of Story podcast. I am Derek Christopher, and we have an incredible guest today, Michael Tabb. I love Michael Tabb. Michael Tabb, first of all, is one of the loveliest and nicest guys. But what credentials this guy has? I mean, first of all, he is a he's worked with Universal and Disney and all kinds of different major companies on different projects. He's had his own projects produced. He was instrumental in creating the WGA Mentor Program. He's a best-selling author, Prewriting Your Screenplay. He's got a new book coming out. Michael, it's called?
It's called Polish, because I always felt you can write a book about how to prepare to write a script and then how to clean it up when you're done. But I don't think you can tell writers how to write. You just have to arm them with the materials to be able to make it as good as you can and as fully realized as you can before and after you finish it.
There we go. Wait till you hear this episode. This is going to be a great episode. And Michael's also a keynote speaker. He was one of my keynote speakers at Story Expo in New York, along with Robert McKee and John Truby and Chris Vogler. He does consultations. He's a mentor. This man does everything.
I love it. I love it. I thank you for making me part of all those things. It's not ever lost on me that no matter what I do, I'm through friends like you, I get put in the room with other people like me to have really super high level conversations about craft and trade and how it works and tricks that we're picking up because we're always learning. I mean, even us, I've been in it for a long time, but I never stop learning. You always have to be open to wisdom.
Oh, you're one of the most curious people that I know. You're always asking questions. You're always learning. You're always networking. You're always communicating with people. And
wow, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. Well, here, let me. I want to get into your book later, but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So there was an article in Rolling Stone, and they posed this question about the soul of Hollywood. They said, "What happens to storytelling when the people creating stories can't build sustainable careers?" And the article was really interesting because it talks about the vanishing middle class of Hollywood, which is, you used to have writers that they would do 20 plus episodes a year, and then it was 10 episodes. Now it's 6 or 8 episodes. That the writing rooms are becoming like micro writing rooms. Instead of 10 or 12 writers, it's 6 or 8 writers.
Yep.
How streaming has sort of changed how Hollywood finances things and how they produce things. What's your take on sort of the quote unquote the middle class of Hollywood and for it being sustainable for writers?
Well, you ask a very important question given the times we're in right now. Things have been relatively hard. They want to tell you it's been hard because of and since the strikes. But no, it's since streaming. Streaming slowly and surely kind of destroyed the business model of every other version of distribution of television and film because it just absorbs everything. And now you can only make so much money because everybody just gives it to their own streaming platform and there's no bidding for who gets to air what on what channel first. It just goes to their platform. And all the different areas of income, it's made it so that it's really hard to motivate getting these kind of movies done. So you lose a lot of the middle class jobs because you need the people who are known for creating the big shows because that's the name and that's the draw. And then because shows are and everything seems to be making less and it's harder to get them done and it's harder to make a lot of money on them, they're hiring lower staff positions because the financial flexibility of the business has been shrinking ever since streaming. And now we're at a stranglehold where it's really hard for a lot of people who've worked in this business for a long time just to get a job.
Well, that's what it says. Let me read this to you. It says streaming platforms have also perfected the art of production control, often finalizing the scripts before shooting begins to optimize scheduling and budgets. And they said, while this approach makes financial sense, it removes writers from the production process, eliminating crucial opportunities for them to learn directing, production, and post-production skills, developmental experiences that from previous generations of writers, that's how they became showrunners because they got to understand all the different aspects and components of working on a show.
And they were on set when their episodes are being filmed because they were still staffing, they were still writing at the time.
Yeah.
Now, the writers just aren't getting that experience. They're sent off into a room, they write their episodes, and then the head writer or somebody is still running it, I'm sure, but everybody else is kind of in the cold for a lot of different kinds of shows and a lot of different kinds of writers. That's the whole, I'm telling you, streaming has changed the paradigm of everything. And it's also the reason why, you're getting much shorter runs and much smaller staffing rooms, because they're not having to meet any kind of pace for a live broadcast network. It used to be 22 to 24 episodes a year on a major network, and you'd have to be constantly creating material so that you'd be able to create all those episodes, rewrite those episodes, get them staged and ready and launched all within a year.
Yeah.
So they needed more people to do that. Now, you know what? I'm going to write the whole series by myself. I'll take a year to write it. It's done. I don't need to employ other writers to work on my show, and I'll just have it done. And then boom, it moves on.
But they
Yeah.
but they also said that what's happening when they do that is they basically buy the writers out up front, so there are no back end deals being created. And so when there are slow times in the industry, they said those back end deals used to be what would carry writers through the lean times,
Yes,
and
the
now they don't even have
residuals.
that component. Yeah,
No, no, because what residuals are there if it's owned by the network? The streaming network is owned by the people who made it. See,
right.
the way we made money long term, we sold, okay, writer history. We sold out having a copyright on our work to the studios in a bargain for being able to collect residuals on a regular basis. Therefore, whenever they released it on a new platform, then they didn't have to come back to us and make another deal for what we'd get for it. But now that they're just controlling it themselves, putting it on their own platform, and there's no residual, giving up our copyright is just shooting us in the foot now, because there's no already done deal to take care of the money we should be making after the thing is taken and made.
When do you think the tide changed? Because streaming sort of seemed like it was the savior of the industry, 5, 10 years ago. That, oh, there are going to be so many platforms, and we're going to be producing so many shows, and it's just going to be a boon for everybody. What changed?
I'm not saying it's not the savior. I am
Yeah,
not saying it is the savior. I'm simply, here's the funny thing is that people look at a time and place in the business. And by the way, the business is always in flux. There's always a panic happening in the business for where it is now. This is just another one of those
right.
moments. But this moment happens all the time. They just call it by different names. We're always in flux. And right now, people are saying, oh, as they always do, why doesn't it work like it did before?
Yeah.
Business models and time don't work backwards. Nothing is going back to the way it was. They can try to do different methods that they used to use before to make more money on the material now, because there's proven ways to make money on it if you don't just funnel it to your own channel, and you can sell it out to different things and different jurisdictions and different mediums, not just to your own channel first.
Yeah.
But the truth is that there is no going back. It's never going to be like it was. The whole medium has changed, and they changed it. I don't know if there was a golden age of streaming. Netflix was a great thing, and what it did is it stabbed the business in the heart because it was right there. It was all the time. You can watch whatever you want when you wanted it. People forget that before that, you had to watch scheduled programs. If you didn't want to show up at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
on a Thursday night to watch the show, you didn't know when you're going to be able to see it unless you taped it or something, or recorded it on some kind of apparatus like a TiVo or whatever they used to have.
But doesn't that create, and I saw that in the article, they said a lot of industry insiders have said that what's happening though is that because you don't have those moments where you had to go buy your TV at 7, 8 o'clock at night on
Right.
a Thursday, that it's creating disposable content, that it's not giving shows a chance to breathe and create any sort of cultural impact.
It also doesn't mean that there's a timeline on when you have to see it. There is no, oh my God, I got to see this weekend. This is the big thing. It stripped us of that whole excitement of, I want to see the new episode because of what happened last week and the week before built up to it. And I want to know what's going to happen this week, because everybody's going to be talking about it because they set it up so well. That's great writing. That's what you do in television. But now you watch the first episode, you go to the second, you go to the third, you watch it all in one day, and you're like, oh, that was fun. Goodbye, disposable. What's the next show?
Yeah.
Part of what makes storytelling in an episodic way so interesting and so fun is giving your brain the imagination to wonder how the hell that's going to work out next week.
Yeah.
And they'd take 3 years between the initial Star Wars films when they made them. During those 3 years, you're like, oh my gosh, what happens now? What's with the Empire? Darth Vader got away. What does that mean? All that's gone. All that anticipation that created urgency around the content, there is no urgency anymore. And the minute,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, but from your perspective, though, as a writer, as a storyteller, how does that impact your storytelling? Does that change how you approach storytelling? Does that change the story itself?
Look, I have to write things differently now, because people used to plan for a show that would have to bear 24 episodes a week when I first got into the business back in the Stone Age. Now I can design a show for 4 episodes. It doesn't even matter. Is this a movie or is this a limited series? I don't know. How many pages do I want it to take? But I don't plot things anymore. When I develop shows for people, and I've sold a couple pilots, and I no longer think I have to carry the weight of having that kind of situation, that it has to have 4 episodes. And also the minute streaming take over, people don't realize, so that people could miss episodes the way things were, everything was very much in a procedural context.
Yeah.
So it was a medical case of the week for medical shows. It was a crime case of the week for cop and detective shows, all that kind of stuff. Now everything is serialized, or 90%. And now they're fighting to go back. I don't know if you've noticed, but I know from the inside what's going around. They're now starting to go back to trying to create a more episodic content, because they're knowing this business model is interesting. And people love the business model because it's free access to everything. Who doesn't want everything all at once, and then you can do it at your leisure? I mean, from a consumer perspective, that's what they always wanted. And the people who were really smart told us even then that it was going to destroy the model, but they did it. And what this revolution is creating, which I think is good, I think what's happening out of this is creating some great good, which is the studios aren't making as many movies. The movie theaters need more content. And independent films are going to start getting more awareness. They're going to start getting larger distribution deals because they have to fill the screens.
But are people going to go to the theaters?
That's another question.
That's another question, because there are a couple of movies that came out recently that I was going to go see in the theater, but the window now is so small.
That's right.
That by the time I want to go see in the theater, it's like, oh, I can just watch it at home now.
Yeah. No. Why am I going out and spending $100 on a movie night with somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. They destroyed their own business model, and that's what they've done effectively. And look, I can look at it in one of two ways. One, I must save the industry. I must tell everybody how to do their job. No, the writer, our job is simple. Don't preoccupy yourself with everybody else's job. It's good to know it. It's good to see what's happening and understand what's happening in the universe. Your job is to tell a great story well told. That's our job. That never changes, and it still is that way.
Well, let me ask you this too. Does the fact that the industry has changed, the fact that you don't do 22 or 26 episodes and you do maybe 6 or 8 or even 10 or even 4, does that lend itself to being more creative? Because instead of the story having to fit to the format, the story can create its own format. So if your story only has legs for 4 episodes, is that more creative, and is that better overall than if you try to stretch out the same story over 10 episodes?
I can't argue with that. Everything is meant to be what it's meant to be. And right now, whatever you're creating can be whatever length it's meant to be, because right now the business model allows for it.
Yeah.
I've seen shows from everything from 4 episodes to literally you could do 12 to 13 episodes, on cable or whatever. And then there's the 24 that still rarely gets done on cable, on network. But the whole business, the whole industry is kind of in this, look, let's just get content and get it out there. And what's great is, like, what I did during the writer's strikes is I could sit there and pick it on the line. Or what I decided to do is I went and put together some of my savings and got somebody else to match funds. And I actually went out and made my own movie.
Yeah.
And now I'm in editing, I'm in post. And then I've already talked to a couple of people who said they may be able to get a theatrical distribution because, quite frankly, the cinemas aren't taken up.
But
And
that's amazing. But don't you think that's the way that to go right now is you have to basically bet on
yeah,
yourself.
but the key is when you do this, guys, don't make what everybody else is making, because they're going to have that movie on Netflix and on all the individual streaming channels made by the studios. Make something that you're like, you know what, I haven't seen in a long time, and I love this kind of movie when I was younger, or I love this thing, and that just seemed to. This is a time. This is a situation where you can rebirth the best concepts and ideas from cinema history in your own unique and special way, that your way is as a writer, and then tell that story, because they're not getting it everywhere. Everything goes through trends. It's a cycle. Like, oh, there are vampire films. Now it's Frankenstein kind of films. Now it's zombies, when you're looking at the horror monster genre. And it just rotates what's in style.
Yeah.
You can forget style and forget what's in style. The truth has always been, to me, is you have to be an artist of your own voice, and you don't get dictated what the marketing is for what's out there in the world. Because the truth is, if you follow a trend, by the time you finish writing it, the trend's passed. So don't ever do that. Literally just write something great that you want to see, and you think other people would love it if they had that opportunity. I don't know why my hand just went up. My digital hand just went up.
I don't know.
Oh, no. I was doing this. I did a hand gesture, and it raised my hand and shot me to the top. That's really funny.
And so I'm sort of curious now with this screenplay that you wrote, that you directed and you produced. Now, when you write the screenplay, that's one thing. But when you directed it, did you look at it through a new set of eyes? That I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote it this way, that this is a much better way to produce it?
It wasn't. Look, when you're a writer, the script has to evolve, because whatever happened in your head, whoever you cast in your head, you actually have to hire a real actor. And you have to funnel these characters through the actors you choose to represent that concept of a character for you.
Yeah.
So, for example, during my audition process, I had a character that was originally written to be African American, and I just couldn't find the right actor for this part. And I had to audition other actors for scenes across from that character. So I asked somebody to read that part just in a scene to watch somebody else. And I asked a non-binary actor, a they. Yeah. And they read the part so well, I couldn't take my eyes off them.
Wow.
And then I said, you know what? I'm going to have you in this other scene. Will you do me a favor and just stand here and be this character, and you don't say a freaking word? I know you don't, but just stand there to give everybody an eye line and let everybody else act and do the thing. And there's this other character who's supposed to be like, this is their moment in the movie, and I'm giving the actors a chance to do that. And all I can do is watch this actor tear me apart emotionally just by them standing there in the way they do it.
Yeah.
Because you feel their body. You could see it in their posture, in their eyes, in how it was extraordinary to me. So I literally cast that person as that character and literally rewrote the entire script for that actor. There are some things that didn't need to change, but you just have to. Let me ask you something.
Does that? I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. Do you feel that by doing that, because you were so enamored by the actor, are you changing the story? Are you pandering to the story because you're changing it to that actor as opposed to the original story you had in mind?
Honestly, you can't make a story you have in mind. You have to make a story that you can actually make. And if you
on
don't
a business
have,
level, you're talking about
on a basic level, you can't, if you don't have the assets to make a movie a certain way, and it can be just as good, if not even better, and more timely. It actually winds up being more timely because I cast a they instead of a he or a she.
Yeah,
it actually elevated the material, because the character itself, their journey didn't have to do with being a they or a them. I believe in casting people for a part that deals with diversity, but their storyline isn't about diversity. The only way we're going to bridge humanity together so that people accept other people who are very different from them is by showing us how we're alike, not sitting there and harping on how we're different. So the fact that I found somebody who is this brilliant actor,
Yeah.
and I got them into my film, and they did better than whoever I saw in my head doing it. They did it better. I didn't sacrifice a damn thing. I took what I had in hand and made the best movie possible. And I don't make a change unless it makes it better. If I had to wait for the other person, I'll tell you this, if this person wasn't so damn good that it elevated the character beyond what I had written in my head, then I wouldn't have cast them. I would have stuck to what I originally planned. But this audition showed me the character could actually be more and better than what I wrote.
How important is it for writers to have that? If something presents it to them, that they need to be able to adapt and be flexible to make those changes and not be so in love with whatever they originally written on the page.
Well, that's the difference between being a writer and being a director.
Uh,
Being a writer is you don't have to have tangible assets and prove you can do it. You
yeah.
don't have to have everything. You don't have to make it work. You don't have to turn an idea into a reality. You can be inflexible as a writer, but that's also why writers aren't often encouraged to be on the set by the director, because they have intractable ideas, and directors work in a world where they have to make decisions based on actual things they have at hand to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I get what you wanted as a writer, but it's not that. It can't be that right now because I don't have that element. That element wasn't there. I think this element is better than that. And if you can't make that adaptation with me and be a part of that journey, then how am I supposed to? I don't want to sit here and explain it to you when I need to be making the movie. As a writer, if you're allowed on set, your job is to support the director, support the team, and see it getting done to the best that is actually possible in the production. Not what you wanted, not what you pictured, and you don't get to pine over the things that have to get lost. What you do is if you can't do something, you find a way. Your job is to make it better than what you had originally planned. The whole job as the director is one thing, whether you know it or not. It's to beat the page. The page is what is written. My job as a director is to turn out a piece of film that is so much better than the page that they're glad I made it into a movie.
Okay. I was just going to say, what do you mean when you say beat the page?
You have to make it better than the script. And to make it better than the script, sometimes it has to change. It has to adapt. It has to grow. And
can you think of some films? Can you think of some films that you've seen, whether recently or in the past, that the script seemed great and then the director screwed it up?
Oh God,
I'm putting you on the spot. I know
you are, and I don't like to talk negatively about the people I work with.
That's fair.
But I will say this:
yeah,
sometimes you can have all the best talent you can possibly ask for in the whole industry working on a project. And because of the way the elements come together, the movie doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's any one person's fault, other than, people will want to blame the producer because their job is to make sure they have everything to make it happen, or the director, it's their job to make it work. But the truth is, it just happens that way. And it's a lot of things, because there's so many components that go into making a film.
We were talking about on a previous episode, I had Dara Marks on here, and Dara Marks and Mark Travis and I were talking about F1. And F1 in the theater, it's exciting, you're grabbing your seat, but there's really no story to it. But you got Brad Pitt, who is incredible.
Yep.
And it's a wonderful piece of visual filmmaking, but there's no story to it, really.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
It's not, okay, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
It's not an original story.
Yeah, Dara said it was very
That's what you're saying. That's what I think they mean, or you mean. Because there is a story. It's a comeback story. It's an unrequited love story, but for a career.
But we said that too. But
that's a story.
Does he change at all? Is there any change in Brad Pitt's character?
It's not okay. Just because this is where people get messed up. People think that just because somebody is the what I would call the hero of the movie, the main character of the story, doesn't mean that they are the character with the character arc. In some movies, the mentor is the main character. Marty McFly doesn't change. George McFly does in Back to the Future. George McFly, believe it or not, just because they're the lead character doesn't mean they're, quote unquote, what I call the protagonist. To me, the protagonist is the character who is changed fundamentally on the inside. Okay?
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's character, though, is the central character. They are the mentor. They do not fulfill the requirements of a protagonist. The quote unquote ingenue, the mentee, is the one who needs to change, and they do.
Okay.
See, people get so stuck up into 99% movies do it like this, so that's how it's supposed to be. That's absolutely not true. You have to see beyond what everybody says is format and structure, and realize you can turn things and do things in a way nobody has seen before. And they may not get it. And they may criticize you for it because, well, gee, this isn't how I see it done. My brain is breaking. That doesn't work. No, they're doing something different. You have to think of things differently and open your perception to the idea that the lead character is not the protagonist who's changing throughout the thing. A lot of people think protagonist means lead character. I break down definitions differently. The hero is the one whose lead they follow. Often, sometimes it's a mentor. There's a central character who's the one we're following, which is who Brad Pitt is. Brad Pitt and Marty McFly are the central characters of those movies. And they're the heroes. But they are not, to me, the protagonist is the one who the antagonist is going to change by forcing them through attrition. Okay? Right. The person who's forced to change from attrition of the antagonist is the younger driver. That is the protagonist, whether you give him a bigger part or you give him a medium part or a semi-big part. The thing is, people put things together to all mean one thing, and they don't. There's a different word. There's different central character, hero, and protagonist. Those are three different words for three very specific reasons to me. They're not interchangeable. Some people like to make words interchangeable to make it simple. And for people who are not movie makers and not screenwriters, that's fine.
Yeah.
We have to know the difference as writers. We have to know what tools we're using and how to manipulate those tools to make the most effective story. And they know that if they make the mentor the lead character, and that means they can cast somebody of a certain age range that will have the stature in Hollywood to sell the movie on the poster, then that's what they're going to do. Then they shift it towards them, but then you still got to give the character arc to somebody, or the movie isn't about learning anything. It's learning. That movie is about learning to put your ego in check. And the truth is that that's what Brad Pitt's character has to do to come back and fight as an old man to be the best in the game again. That whole movie is about your ego and the battling of ego. And it's just exemplified most by the younger character.
Do you see that? Because I think that what I've been hearing from a lot of TV writers and screenwriters that are fairly new in the business, that they don't rely on the books and the courses like they used to. What they're doing is they're reading screenplays, they're reading TV scripts, and they're analyzing actual scripts, and they're comparing what they see on the page versus how it ends up on the screen. And that's sort of becoming their education. And from what I'm hearing, that's what writers are doing now that are having some success in the business.
Here's what I'll say to that. I think you have to do both.
Yeah.
I think you're a lopsided writer if you don't have the basic understanding of how story structure works.
Yeah.
And how it is. Because what's better? Tell me this. Would you rather be somebody who does things because it's how you've seen it been done in other scripts, or somebody who sees what the normal is and you decide to break that rule because you have an original idea on how to do it?
But you have to know the rules before you can break them.
Aha! Which means you want to make informed decisions as a writer. You don't want to be just hobbling along, making decisions based on stuff you read. Because some of the stuff that person did, maybe what they did was a bunch of stuff that doesn't normally work in cinema, and thinking if you'll get away with it, not understanding what they knew, which is why they made the thing that doesn't normally happen work, is going to allow your movie to work. You're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of movies today are not hitting with audiences. I think that you're getting people who do one or the other, and there has to be a broad understanding of everything. You have to be a Renaissance writer, a Renaissance person. Like in the old days, a Renaissance person, for those of you who are not of my generation, is somebody who could be a philosopher, play a musical instrument, and basically you could put your head in all circles of society and conversation and play a role in it because you have some semblance of authority on all things, at least in some way, in some capacity. As a writer, you have to be that because you got to understand, we are the fire hydrant of the movie. We supply everybody with the nourishment and the water to make a story. The problem is that most of the other people in the process fancy themselves dogs. And we know what they do to fire hydrants.
Yeah.
But the reason why writers, I think, should become more directors is because the directors are the ones who hold the leashes and they decide who pisses where.
Yeah.
And usually when I was on set, crew people and cast members greatly affected the story, the plot, the scenes, the dialogue throughout the filmmaking process. Because you know what my job was? To beat the page, not execute the page. It's not a stilted thing. It's a living organism making a movie. It is not what it is on the page. It is alive.
Well, listen to this. This was the last line of the article from Rolling Stone. It said, the future of Hollywood depends on whether the industry recognizes that its greatest asset isn't the distribution technology, but its storytellers.
100%. I'm a writer. I'm not going to argue with that. I wouldn't even want to argue against it. The truth is, our job is to constantly tell compelling stories and figure out how to always do it better. The reason why I write the books on how to be better writers and why I helped create the mentor program at the Writers Guild of America with David Shore, who writes The Good Doctor and House MD. He did the TV side, I did the feature side, and he was running the new members committee at the time, and he's brilliant. And we came up with doing the mentor program because the truth is we have to constantly be teaching. We have to pass down every piece of wisdom that I've learned, that I know about filmmaking, so that the next generation can step beyond that and make it even better. When I write a book on what I put together, like my book's Prewriting is Prewriting Your Screenplay. I didn't hold anything back. I put everything in there I know about every little part of it. I didn't say, no, that's me. That's my own personal wisdom. That's how I do it. No, I give you frickin' everything. Because even if I give you everything, you're going to do it differently because you're your own writer. You have your own past, your own set of experiences, and that's going to change how you do everything.
Yeah.
And our job is to always share what we know to the next generation, to the current generation. There's a reason why Spielberg and Coppola and Lucas and all those guys were in the same frickin' room making movies and talking stuff, is because they didn't get better because they knew everything from the start. They surrounded themselves with people who could teach them.
Yeah.
Don't play a game with people who you're better than. Find people who add to your wisdom base, and then set aside stuff to give to people who. And
I think it's really interesting because I think that there are opportunities out there if you're willing to put in the work. Are you familiar with BBC Open Call?
Please tell the audience more about this BBC Open Call. They need to know.
BBC Open Call. It says, Open Call is not a competition, but a means by which the BBC seeks out the best writing talent. We look for writers with the strongest potential to be developed and produced by the BBC for broadcast. And what I love about it, it says we are looking for writers to develop rather than for specific projects. We look for what the script tells us about the writer. Their script that they submit becomes a calling card as to their talent, their ability, and their voice. And they're looking for distinctive voices. And anybody can submit to BBC Open Call. And it's what a great opportunity that there's somebody like the BBC, which is enormous, and they got a ton of money, that they're looking for anybody can submit. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter if you're male or female or non-binary, doesn't matter. They're looking for talent, they're looking for distinctive voices. And I think the fact that people don't do the time to research things like BBC Open Call, to submit to, it's maddening. I mean, that's somebody who's not doing their homework then.
Yeah. And here's a little secret that you should all know. What you just described they're looking for is exactly what every producer in Hollywood says they're looking for.
Yeah.
It's not them. That's what people who accept material are supposed to think and feel. But they're getting back to saying it and saying anybody can do it. The thing that's different is they're saying anybody can deliver, because in Hollywood, there's so much you need a referral to get your material to the people who actually can make a choice. They won't accept unsolicited material. And who knows, maybe this is happening now because they don't have to hire actual readers. They can just put it through an AI program that tells them what it is and summarize it for them. I don't know if they have people reading all these projects, or do they charge as an entry fee?
No, there's no charge.
There's no charge. Everybody should be submitting to this. It costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's genius. What a great thing to bring up.
But that's another point of AI, is that how is AI, and I know you've been very vocal about this in the past, how do you feel AI, now that we're into this more, how do you feel AI is affecting the industry and the careers of writers?
I think, look, AI is a real thing.
Yeah.
It is going to make a huge difference. Did you guys ever watch the Terminator movies? Yeah. How successful are we ever really against the Terminators eventually coming?
Yeah.
Somebody is going to use and utilize the technology until it's out of control. And because it suits their own profit margins, that's going to happen. We can fight all we want, but we're not going to stop technology. The key is to be smarter than technology, to be more original than technology. Here's one thing technology is never going to give you: an original idea. You want to know why? Because everything it decides is based on programming and things put into it already.
Thank you. I've been ranting about this. I said, can AI write a Fargo? Can AI write a No Country for Old Men?
The answer is no.
I don't think so.
Now it can, because it will just copy those movies and do it differently.
Right.
But it's never going to create the thing that changes the flux and changes the zeitgeist of filmmaking or show telling for our next generation. Because look, there is self-learning software, self-adapting, self-growing. But look, now I'm going to talk about something that's deeply personal, and that is my perspective on life. I refuse to live in fear.
Yeah.
So they come up with stuff. I'm still going to do what I do. You know why? They don't pay me to write. I'm going to tell you a secret. Nobody pays me to write. I write all the fucking time, excuse my language, and I do it because I love it. When they pay me, it's to stop so they can take it away.
Oh, wow. I like that.
I write out of love and passion. Nothing's going to stop that from me.
Yeah.
And if they stop making it, then like I did with this first film, I'll make my own where I can, and I'll gather my resources and do what I can to continue to do what I love. And hopefully I'll be able to continue to live well doing it.
This is like in the new John Candy
documentary. You can't live in fear of technology.
No.
You can plan for it. But the truth is, it's the people who run technology who have to be responsible. They can create stuff. It's Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monster. They have to be responsible. The story is as old as Frankenstein, and we just have to, you can't control it. You can only say, hey, I can try to make rules and parameters or whatever to stilt its ability to infringe on our income and what we do in this career field.
But you can use it as a tool.
You can use it as a tool.
Yeah,
Writers can use it.
Yeah, if you have a line and the line isn't clicking, you can put that line into ChatGPT and say, give me a couple alternatives how to say this line. And then you can tweak your line based on that. It can be a creative partner.
That's right.
But ultimately, the creativity, I think, has to come from the writer, him or herself.
Well, I think it's best and most original that way. And the truth is, I know people who said my movie was, I just created this movie. It was 90% AI. I'm like, personally, I wouldn't have any pride in making that.
Right.
I wouldn't have any pride in doing it. It's like, no, I came up with an idea and then some other intelligence came up with everything.
Right.
That's my movie. Is it? Is it? I write my movies. I write something
Yeah.
that only Michael Tabb can write.
Yes.
And I hope to inspire other writers to do the same.
But here's where it's great. I have a friend, an old family friend. He actually just passed away. He's 88 years old, and I've been helping him. He's writing a book about economics and baseball, and I was helping him with the last paragraph or two. And he's got a very distinctive voice. So I put his chapters into AI, then I put my one or two chapters in, and I said, capture his voice in my writing. It actually did a really good job with that.
See, that's
But
beautiful.
yeah, that worked out perfectly because it captured the way that he spoke and his intonation and the way he used certain words that I didn't do. And it to me, that was great.
Exactly. It's an aid. It's not an answer.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense? It's an aid, but not an answer.
It's an aid, but not an answer. So speaking of answers, I want to talk about this new book you have coming out.
Okay.
First of all, when does it come out?
I have not secured it a launch date yet because
Okay.
I have not given it a launch date yet because it's a book on editing and I am still editing it. Look, when you do a book on editing, the editing can't be it's
Yeah.
got to be good editing. And the sad thing is that editing a book is very different from editing a screenplay.
Right.
Screenplay editing, there are a very specific set of skills and tricks, and there are hundreds of them, and you can't remember them all when you're editing your own script. So I thought I should put together a book that encapsulates every lesson I learned about editing into one place, and then separate it into the drafts you would do: early draft, early revision, middle revision, late revision, so that you make the changes in the right order, so you're not trying to do too much at once, because otherwise things get missed. And
Well, that's what I want to ask you because I think you said that on something you sent me, you said that the rewrite process or the editing process is three things. Yeah, it's rewriting, revision, and polishing.
Yes, three very, very distinctive steps that I break the book into those three steps.
So can you just briefly take us through those three steps and why they're important and how do you use them?
Okay. The first thing is the big picture edits, the macro grande edits for your book. In other words, you need to go do a pass with each character and make sure that character sounds the same throughout the whole damn script. They need to be one voice, one personality, and needs to not change unless it's the character with a character arc, and it only happens at a specific point. And then when it happens, that change needs to be consistent from then on for the rest of it.
Right.
But it's about consistency. It's about genre. Like the grande edits, the major rewrite edits are things like genre. It's like, okay, you got to understand, they sell a movie not just based on star, but since the beginning of time, when they started selling motion pictures, they would sell it based on genre. That's the oldest delivery method for telling people, do you want to see a musical in a big old Broadway, MGM style? Do you want to see a Paramount, picture? Do you want to see a crime movie, which was usually done at Warner Brothers? Horror was really taken up by Universal for a long time, starting in the 30s.
Yeah.
And then later they all intermingled and started doing each other's kind of pictures, because they stopped being able to do distribution as well as production because of the whole copyright laws, because of what's the law I'm talking about? It's for monopoly. They couldn't monopolize the whole industry, controlling every aspect of it so that nobody else could get distribution. So they gave up distribution. So then they had to make all kinds of movies for all kinds of theaters. So when that happened, everybody started making all the different movies. But when you're writing a film for genre, you have to make sure that you consistently hit that genre, because that's what if you sell somebody on going to see a sci-fi film and your sci-fi is like 10% of your movie,
you're screwed.
Well, it's not that sometimes it could still be a good movie, because great storytelling is great storytelling. But 90% of the time, your audience isn't going to feel satisfied if they went into the movie based on a preview saying it was a science fiction idea and there was very little science fiction involved.
Isn't this basically what happened with Joker 2?
Yeah, that's a musical.
Yeah, and they didn't sell it as a musical.
No, they didn't. So people are like, what is this? What
I so badly wanted to see it. Yeah, I wanted to go see Joker 2, and then I was ready to go, and then somebody said it's really a musical, and I go, fuck that. I don't want to see Joker 2 now. I don't want to see a musical.
It's also, I'm not gonna get into panning or promoting. But
that's okay, I will.
And I love that about you, so that I don't have to.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say. It's why movies like there's this really fun movie I enjoy, which is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the universe.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable, but the advertising sold it as a teen rom-com, or is it a fantasy, or is it sci-fi? Is it action? And because it didn't know what it was, it didn't know how to sell it, so nobody came to see it.
Yeah.
They need a forward genre to sell it. And then you have to satisfy that. So that when you're rewriting the movie, one of the things I do, which is part of the thing, is you go through every scene and you say, is genre playing a part in this scene or sequence? And if not, how could I seamlessly involve it so that it feels like I'm honoring what I promised my audience?
Yeah.
Little things like that. And it makes a difference, because it could be the smallest detail in the background, but all of a sudden, if you're having this scene, it looks like two people talking, and there's this beautiful thing going on outside, and there's a bird sitting there chirping, and all of a sudden just the window glitches and you see there's nothing really there, it's just a wall, and then glitches back, even though it has nothing to do with the scene. It fucking reminds you we're in a different reality, and it can be shocking. So you can use it, and it makes the film more interesting.
Yeah.
If you integrate little things like, it'll give you ideas to make your script better. Honestly, or you won't use it. Don't use the idea if it doesn't beat the page as is. Everything you add or change is to beat the page as it stands.
Okay, so 3 steps again: rewrite, revision, polish.
Yes.
Next,
so there's a bunch of things you do to do the major rewrite. That basically you follow something through the whole entire script, and you make sure it's actively taken care of, so that that is right. Because only once you change the big things can you start worrying about the little things or the medium things. The second part is revisions. These are the medium changes. For me, it's mostly thinking scene by scene. Okay. So it's no longer you're no longer watching things go from scene to scene. You're looking at each individual scene and you're going, okay, do I get into this scene right? Do I get out of this scene right? What is going on? How is the scene building? Am I starting too high? Am I starting too low? Did I show too much? You're looking at a series of things put together that make a situation. And if there's ways to solidify a more concrete, clear perspective on the scene so people know exactly what they're reading and it doesn't feel all over the place. Because unfortunately, some people's writing, it's distracting. You can tell the writer is distracted. Like you can tell they're ADHD. It's like they're talking about something and then they talk about something else, and then and then all of a sudden they wind up going back to something they mentioned earlier in the scene.
Yeah.
And you're like, why didn't you cover that back when you were in that part of the scene, so that the scene could constantly move forward?
Yeah.
As opposed to kind of working in these circles. Some people like circles, and I get it. To me, if the best way to hold an audience member in their seat is by moving forward. Is by taking the step ahead, so it's not predictable. So they're not just looking at the same thing again and again. Because if you look at something again, I want you to now see it from a new perspective because I've taken it further.
Yeah.
And you should be seeing it without me having to go back and explain it to you again. It should affect what's already in your head that's already been there, and you should be smart enough to put the two things together. You don't have to go back and now explain that part you talked about earlier now that you've talked about the other thing. It should be retroactively obvious if the reader is paying attention. Now, some people, they believe you should write for the lowest common denominator of intelligence. I am not that guy. Uh, Look, you may like a different writing teacher than me because you may like different styles of films than I do. But I guarantee you, there will be at least 20 to 30 editing tricks I will give you for your screenplay when you read it, whether you like what I like or not, and you'll go, oh my God, that will work. That will make everything I do better because it's impartial. It's impartial. It's this
You,
makes this read better.
Michael, I will tell you this. I recommend you all the time to people as like the go-to guy because I think you really serve the writer. You serve the story, and you have zero ego when you work with people. And I can see it how people respond to you. That they know that 100% of everything you do is in their best interest, and that's what I think makes your input so valuable to people.
This medium, the reason why I love this medium so much, and sometimes it's easy as a writer to forget this because you work in your own room by yourself most of the time, but it's a collaborative medium. And if you don't like people, it's going to be hard for you.
Yeah,
It is. Um, I like people a lot. And what I like isn't necessarily what the other person like, but when we're making something, it's not about what I like and it's not about what they like. It's about what makes it better. And
yeah.
that doesn't have a single voice. That's about a bunch of voices coming together and finding the best possible alternative. And I'm not saying I don't always end up with a better idea, but but what will
Yeah.
happen is I will have something and somebody else will come up with something. And even if that's not the answer, see, people say 90% of people's notes they're no good, they don't mean anything. 100% incorrect. Some people give notes that don't make sense. I agree. But the truth is, ask yourself why they were asking that question and what, by giving you that note, were they trying to fix
Yeah.
that isn't holding their attention, that is making them say something. Now, some people just want to add ideas to add ideas, and I get that. But for the most part, when people give you notes, they think they're helping. And you have to be able to look through their notes and see what they're trying to say and
Yeah.
what the problem is they're having and why they're trying to help you. And if you can get down to the root of the problem that they're trying to fix, I can come up with a better way to do that. Because
Well,
nobody knows my story better than me. But it takes people poking holes at my work so that I can ask myself those questions because I don't see the questions until they're asked.
I have an example. It's unscripted. I worked on an unscripted TV show. I had put together a sizzle reel,
Huh?
and I sent it to a friend of mine, Arnold Shapiro, who has won an Oscar and 16 Emmy Awards. I thought, well, let me send him the sizzle reel, and maybe he'll give me a line or two of what he thinks. The next day, he sent me back a full page, single spaced document, completely eviscerating everything about my sizzle reel. And I'm reading it, and I'm just slumping in the chair more and more with each line. And I'm like, what? And you know what? At the end, I go, I think he's right. And I go, this guy has won an Oscar and 16 Emmys. This guy knows what he's talking about. And in hindsight, everything he said was right on the money. And it was like one of the greatest experiences I ever had because it was the first thing that I put out of the gate, and it was eviscerated. And after that, I never took it personally. I thought, these are the people that are trying to help me. They're taking the time and
Yeah,
the effort to advise me.
yeah,
And to this day, I love Arnold for that, and that meant so much to me. And I never took it personally.
yeah. I think that that's the only way to look at things is don't play a blame game. Don't have an ego. Look,
Yeah,
I have a life philosophy and it has a lot to do with my work philosophy. And that is that everything I create in this lifetime is dust. It may not have existed before me, and at some point it's going to disappear into the ether of everything. So what do I have? In the end, my legacy is how I treat the people in my life.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
treat everybody with the love and respect you wish you were going to be treated.
Yeah,
Professionally, um, just be a good person to people.
yeah.
And I mean, I think the reason why I worked more than once for Universal is because they saw the kind of person I was to work with, and they hired me again.
This
You
is
know,
this
it's
is the advice I got from Chad Gervich when I was pitching it, because Chad had been pitching. He had pitched and sold a lot of shows, And he said, when you go in, he goes, you're not pitching your show, you're pitching yourself. You're selling yourself. You want to be the person they want to be in business with. That's what you're selling.
Yeah, every pitch is two things. Why this idea and why me?
Yeah.
And if you have a good idea, a lot of people have a good idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Even many pretty lousy writers, to be honest, have good ideas. They sure do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the why me? Why am I the writer to write this idea? Why do you want to work with me? Because you got to understand, once they pick a writer to work with, they know they're stuck working with that guy 10 hours a day or more on this thing for months on end to make this idea come to fruition. And to make a movie or a TV show, when you look at all the credits on a movie, look at all the damn people listed in the credits. And believe it or not everybody's being listed. There are PAs who are left out. There are people who don't wind up on the screen. And it's a Herculean effort. It is an enormous Herculean effort. So considering all that goes into it, all the people with their hands in the butter, it's amazing at all when good movies get made out of that.
Yeah.
It means great leadership. It means great storytelling. It means a great team and great teamwork, and having your ears open to make it the best it can be constantly. And a writer's job is to constantly make it better, just like the director's job is to always make it better. When I became the director of my movie, I literally had to tell the writer to go away.
Yeah.
But he was always there. The writer's always there. I think I'm a better director because I am the writer, because I know what the heartbeat is for every single character in my story. I know it like the back of my hand.
Right.
And nobody else knows that. But my job isn't to even tell the actors what the heartbeat is. My job is to put people in it who can get to that heartbeat. And then when they're not on track, I as a director don't like to tell an actor ever how to deliver a performance or a line, because then they're just acting. They're trying to deliver some manufactured thing that you told them to do. That's never the right answer. It's never going to give a genuine performance. The way you direct from a writer's perspective, just so you know, as a writer, you're used to telling people how things go. You have to change your thinking entirely. My job as a director becomes, what question can I ask them to put it in perspective so that they can come from within themselves a reason to make it different, so it comes from within them to make it better. And sometimes what they come up, I will ask a question, and I think it's going to lead to a certain conclusion, but it doesn't always. The actor is still involved. They have a separate mind and they can take it differently. And I can tell you this, sometimes the actor has a better idea than I ever did, ever. Because it was true to them. It came out of the body that was natural for it to come out of. And it hit the point harder because it was being hit in a way that doesn't look pre-planned the way a writer organized it. It feels authentic to the moment and the person and the role being played. Because a
good director will do that. Good director will be collaborative with other people.
So ask questions. Don't dictate answers to your actors. Ask questions.
So as a writer, then a director, so the last thing you were talking about was polishing the script. How did you know when you finished the script that it was done? Because I talk to people all the time. They say, well, I've been working on this script for 6 years. And it's like, 6 years? At what point do you
That's nothing.
feel like,
That's nothing. I have scripts I've gone back to for 30 years.
Wow.
A script is never done until they take it away from you.
Yeah.
It's not.
So,
it's my baby.
You took it away from yourself.
I am still its parent. I'm still raising it to be the best adult script it can be.
But on the film that you directed, that you wrote, you took it away from yourself. How did you know what point to do that?
I had no choice. I had to deal with finite. I had to deal with finite resources. I could no longer deal in imagination itself alone. I had to deal with reality. I had to make choices based on what was available to me.
Got it.
There's a point in this process where the ethereal has to become the tangible.
Yeah.
And when it becomes tangible, it's never going to be what the ethereal thought. but it can be
Uh-huh.
better or it can be less. But it's
Yeah.
never going to be the same because it's ethereal. It's an idea of something. Once you make it tangible, you make it real. And in that alone, it becomes more powerful.
Yeah. And then, so what was your when you polished that script? What was your process to polish it off, to finish it?
I wasn't done polishing until we finished shooting the scene.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'd be in the middle of shooting a scene, and uh, an actor would come to me, and they'd have an idea, and I'd let them do a take that way. Go
Yeah.
ahead, give it a shot. Doesn't cost me anything. I'm shooting 6K digitally. It doesn't matter. What does it cost
Yeah.
me? An extra minute to let them go back and try something different, and then we have an alternative. It's always good to have alternatives. I mean, you
Yeah.
could only have so many because you only have so much time to shoot your film.
Yeah.
But and then nothing's done. And the truth is, even when I'm done shooting it, I'm not done editing it. You know why? I still have to edit it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
editing process is the last rewrite. That's the last rewrite. And even then, years later, you can do a director's cut. The rewrites never have to
Never
stop.
end. Yeah.
It's up to the writer when to let go.
But at what point do you actually start submitting it? I think that's I should have phrased the
That's a
question
different
is,
thing altogether.
yeah, that's that people they work on this thing. It's like, well, when are you actually going to submit it? When are you going to get, and how important
Okay,
is feedback?
huge.
Yeah.
I have a very specific process I go to before I feel something's ready to be submitted to other people.
Okay.
I write a first draft, and then I give my script to 3 people who are my friends, who I trust, who aren't even necessarily screenwriters,
Yeah.
to read the script and give me their thoughts. And I say, take notes, don't be shy. I don't care. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to tell me everything you're thinking. Because the truth is, a lot of people on a first read, especially, like, I ask actors a lot for the first pass, because they're looking at a film for what you want out of the movie. When you go to the movie, what are you expecting or hoping to get? And if I'm not, they're going to be able to tell me that. Because if you have those problems still in the script when you give it to actual writers, you're wasting their read, because you're getting notes on something you could have solved with a less educated mind in the
Yeah.
craft. The first draft, if it's a writer I've never asked for feedback before, I will throw them in the first draft of notes, only because I don't know how good they are, and I'm not wasting their read if they're not very good, because they're still on some level have a superfluous knowledge of what makes a good movie, or at least
Sure.
they do, and they're going to have ideas. And that first draft is basically to keep me from fucking up the major pitfalls of a film. Like,
Yeah.
one of my scripts is a tragic love story. It's still one of my favorite things I've ever written. And to this day, my friend, an old friend of mine who I went to high school with, gave me one of the best notes I ever had. Basically, he says, let me get this straight. You have a Romeo and Juliet story, and you're not killing the lovers together?
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's a great
I
note.
had the intercut where they're dying at the same time.
Yeah.
Or one is being killed before and the other one dies out of fury, attacking everybody in the world to avenge her. And I realized, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And I'm not an idiot. It just works. If to fulfill the genre best, give them
Yeah.
that moment of dying in each other's arms, where on a cold day they're outdoors and the blood is steaming from their bodies, and their hands their bodies are rested onto each other, and together their bodies stop rising and falling with breath,
Wow.
but the blood
Wow.
continues to steam.
Yeah.
That's I think
That
about it and my heart stops. I get a little teary,
it's so
because
cinematic too. Just that the way it's just so cinematic. You can visualize it from your words.
that was a note from somebody who never made a dime in the movie industry.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that came from that. It was as simple as, why didn't you kill them together?
Yeah.
You
And
never know where your best note's going to come. So give
and
people, yeah.
how do you know that if the notes are bad?
Because you should fucking know. You're the writer. If you don't know enough, here's the thing. The biggest problem you're going to have as a starting, excuse my language, I'm sorry.
That was that was such a great response. You should fucking know is that really
It's
says it
true.
all. It's totally true.
It's totally true. Look, you are going to get notes that don't work all the time.
Yeah.
Our job is to separate the chaff from the bran, to tell the notes that work from the notes that you really need to. I mean, if you just take every note, your script is going to get worse.
Yeah.
No question. No, if you take everybody's note, even if it's the one executive you're serving, if you take every note exactly as it's written, as said, you are screwing up your script. The whole reason they have hired you to be the writer on the script is because you can beat their idea. You never turn in a script with the notes and answers done exactly as they say. Your job is to beat it. Just like beating the page, you have to beat the note.
Yeah.
That's your job. So no note you take on face value. Every note you inquire, you investigate, you research, you look at the tools that make a great scene, and you ask yourself, what was missing? What can make it better? And does that work for? And sometimes the hardest part, the hardest note to ignore is when it's a really good idea, but it doesn't work for your genre or this specific story at this.
I was going to say, it doesn't serve the story. Yeah.
The story. Because if you're at the end of a drama and you get the idea for the funniest freaking line in the whole film, I'm sorry, it doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. You're going to rip your audience out of the mood unless you have an amazing skill, but to be able to pop in and out like that. But even the best idea doesn't always belong in that place, because there's a difference between, there's a reason why there are two different words, best and right. It has to be right.
Yeah.
Right wins over best. And a lot of people don't like that. But people think, well, the best should always win. It's always what's best. Do what's best. I want the best.
Yeah.
I want the best writer. I want Aaron Sorkin. But what I'm developing is a broad comedy. Do you think he's the right writer for that necessarily? It doesn't mean he's not absolutely brilliant and that he's not the best at what he does. It just means there's right and then there's best. And just because you get a great idea doesn't mean it works. But sometimes what you can do is you get an idea, and this is where the good writer comes in, where the great writer comes in, is you take that note that is best and see if you can put that into a place where it does fit in your story much earlier.
Yeah.
Get that laugh in the middle of the film, right after the major midpoint or something, when the audience is going to need a laugh, when all the stakes have been revealed and your characters are going, that's when your audience needs a great freaking laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Tabb, you have been the best guest and you have been the right guest for this episode. And I love you to death. And I think you're so talented. And I think you're brilliant at what you do. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, you can find everything about me. And sometimes I teach classes. You can go to my website at www.michaeltabb.wga.com. And there's a store where you can buy classes. You can buy my current for sale book. And you can also schedule time with me and reserve time with me if you need advice about something, business or script. And
you do mentorship too.
I do. When I'm not knee deep on something, I definitely take the time to do that, because I honestly think that I never learn so much is when I'm teaching, actually, because talking through something with somebody else is always the way you grow your mind into perception. You ever notice the best people who listen to you, your dearest friends, the ones who listen to you aren't the ones who are best, are often not the ones who give advice and tell you how to behave. They're the ones who will listen to you long enough for you to figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that sometimes is what needs to happen. And I'm happy to When I'm helping somebody else, sometimes I will talk myself into a new revelation I'd never even considered before. And
Yeah.
in that way, my own students teach me a lot of the time. They make me a better writer.
Yeah. Well, when your movie comes out and when
It's
your
called
book
Winter
comes out,
Breaks.
Winter Break. So when Winter Breaks comes out, you
Hmm.
got to come back on here. We're gonna analyze your movie. We're gonna break it down,
Oh
a couple
God.
scenes.
And if you want to know about my movie, it's seeking finishing funds. You can find a page on it on my website as well.
It's called Winter Breaks.
Winter Breaks, because it takes place over the 4 winter breaks in college, and you skip everything in between.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Michael, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us on The Pulse of Story. I'm Derek Christopher with Michael Tabb, and we will see you next time. Take
We'll see
care.
you next time. Thank you. Thank you all.